It stretches 10,000 kilometers from east to west. Russia is the largest country on the planet. A land of mysteries and a harsh climate in this remote and inaccessible land of pristine nature. Incredible animals have surprisingly adapted to difficult natural conditions. It is also a fragile paradise. Here the rarest and most recognizable creatures must fight for territory and survival. Welcome. Sunrise in the vast wilderness. This country is so huge that when the sun rises over its Pacific coast, it will take 11 hours to reach its western borders. Stretching 17 million square kilometers between Eastern Europe and the Pacific Ocean, Russia amazes with its biodiversity, majestic mountains, endless deserts, and almost a quarter of the planet's forest is nature. On a truly grand scale, perhaps the greatest danger is the northernmost region of this country. Almost all year round, Russia's Arctic coast is frozen in ice. Due to climate change, the glacier area in the summer has decreased by February 3rd compared to 1980. At this time of year, melting ice blocks float hundreds of kilometers from the coast. But despite all these changes, the Arctic coast remains home to the largest land-based predator among the melting ice. Fighting for survival. The female polar bear. They hunt seals, but at this time of the year it is very difficult to get close to the prey. In summer, hunting requires much more strength than in winter, when the sea is covered with ice, and its prey is easier to escape. Finding a seal among thousands of ice floes is already a difficult task, so the bear, as a skilled hunter, uses a cunning strategy of tracking down prey. It moves north towards the wind, then moving with long zigzags, it constantly sniffs. This allows it to explore a much larger area than when moving in a straight line, like the bear smelled something. This is a seal. Resting on an ice floe, 2 kilometers from the predator, the hunt has begun. Moving silently in the water, the bear approaches the seal. It moves in the right direction, but it is still more than a kilometer away from the prey and does not see it. Dipper, you have to constantly get out on the ice. Rely only on your sense of smell so as not to go off course. This dipper can also be the largest land predator, but when approaching prey, she plunges into the water absolutely silently, basking in the Arctic sun. The seals do not lose their vigilance for a second, but the bear is almost impossible to distinguish from the white block of ice. Even now, when the predator is only a few meters from the seal, he is unaware of the impending danger. Having dived under the water, the bear swims under the ice. Now she only needs to choose the right moment to attack. The seal reacts instantly and makes a desperate attempt to escape. And as often happens at this time of year, because of the melted ice, a long hunt turned into just a waste of energy. Winter is always welcome for polar bears in Russia. The summer is coming to an end at the northernmost point of Russia. Another famous Arctic animal uses tricks that allow it to hunt all year round. The dazzling white fur of the Arctic fox changes color throughout the year. Yes, this animal was born only in the spring, but it has already left its native hole, and now has to get food on its own. Thick, cool guillemots nest high on the rocks. For a hungry Arctic fox, this is a tempting prospect. The chicks in these rare nests have already grown and can fly, but the fox is not here because of the birds. 1,000 eggs can remain in the nests. Protein-rich Kyra eggs, a delicacy worth the perilous climb up a sheer cliff, is now over for guillemots, but the adults are ready to defend their nests. The insidious fox does not give up and tries to get to the nest on the other side of the rock, but the birds drive the fox away with warlike cries and push it back with their powerful beaks, but the fox still finds an abandoned nest a little higher in the mountains. In the summer, foxes always find something to profit from on the Arctic coast. In another corner of Russia, a summer feast of a completely different scale is in full swing. Lake Kuriil in Kamchatka occupies a large area surrounded by 29 active volcanoes, and is known for the largest population of brown bears in our country. Summer hundreds of bears gathered on the shores of the lake. The period of mating games and raising offspring began. These 3 cubs were born in blogs last winter. They weighed only a few hundred grams, but they grow rapidly feeding on mother's milk. Now the bear is less and less likely to feed hungry cubs with milk, because in order to survive the first winter, the cubs must be strong enough. And for this, the mother teaches them to eat salmon, which will soon return to spawn in incredible quantities. These waters will soon become crowded due to salmon striving to the upper reaches of the lakes to lay eggs. The start of spawning will mark the beginning of one of nature's greatest perkites. The mother catches fish for each of her cubs. Although hungry bears are capable of eating up to 40 salmon per day, overfishing and rising water temperatures pose a much greater threat to salmon populations. It is the abundance of salmon that attracts so many bears to the shores. Of being so close to other bears can be dangerous. This year, the mating season has already ended, but this male is apparently still looking for a pair. He smelled the cubs, and this is a sure sign that the female is somewhere nearby. The male is still far from the family. He knows that while the bear is feeding the cubs, she is not ready for mating games, but if the bear finds and kills the cubs, he gets his chance to reproduce. The female will protect the cubs even at the cost of her own life. But today, noticing the approaching male, she chose to retreat without engaging in battle. She takes the cubs into the forest to hide there. This is a dangerous game. But the tactic was chosen successfully. Finally, the male surrenders, allowing the female to go to the lake for food. Geothermal springs in Russia are a real paradise for brown bears. But even the pristine beauty of Kamchatka is lost against the background of the largest region of Russia. Siberia occupies more than a third of the Russian landmass. This is a harsh but vulnerable land, stretching from the Arctic Circle to the border with Mongolia. Most of Siberia, with an area of 13 million square kilometers, is covered with forest, which is of vital importance for the planet in carbon dioxide emissions, the main cause of global climate change. And 640 billion trees of Russia, most of which are located in Siberia, absorb 500 million tons of carbon dioxide, being the habitat of the most dangerous and rare predators in Russia, including for the world's largest species, snow. And in summer the predator uses binocular vision to detect the slightest sign of life in the meadow. This lemming is getting out of the mink in search of fresh grass. At first, the cautious animal keeps close to the hole, but to feel more confident, he decides to leave for a safe place. At a distance of 50 ms and you are waiting for the right moment, finally lemming moves too far. The owl acts, crushing the lemming with his claws. The owl simply swallows it whole. Everyone knows that Siberia is seemingly endless forests, but the landscape of South Siberia is dry and devoid of vegetation. Forming the border of Russia with 3 other states, before us are the Golden Mountains of Altai. Most of this ridge is occupied by the alpine tundra, a cold landscape scorched by the sun extends to the Gobi Desert. But even in such an unfriendly land, in the harsh conditions of Altai, some animals have found a way to survive. A herd of mountain goats grazes in the steep gorges on the border of Russia and Mongolia. His leader is a dominant male. In exchange for the right to procreate, he protects the whole herd. Here in the mountains there is danger everywhere. To avoid meeting Altai sloths and snow leopards, the mountain goat has to live on almost vertical rocks. However, even here they can become prey for huge golden eagles patrolling the Altai valleys in search of kids. But despite the constant danger, mountain goats survive by feeding on rare small shrubs and grass growing on barren mountain slopes. But dry grass does not provide an opportunity to maintain water balance in the body. Animals have to risk going down into the valley to quench their thirst every day. At the same time, the leader must make sure that nothing threatens his herd in the valley. After that, under his leadership, the whole herd makes a risky descent. These dexterous animals have an advantage over predators while they remain on the mountain ledges, but the lower they descend into the valley, the less chances of escape during an attack. As you descend, anxiety engulfs the entire herd. But thirst drives them forward. The leader remains on the alert in order to notice the approaching predator in time until the whole herd carefully approaches the water. But even the largest male will not be able to resist the snow leopard lying in wait for prey at the foot of the mountains near the springs. Mother and cubs alternately drink greedily, trying to swallow as much as possible more water, staying on the alert, ready to rush to run in case of the slightest danger. No one noticed an eagle looking out for the kids who inadvertently moved too far from the herd. The leader, exhausted by thirst, does not notice the threat and approaches the source to get drunk, trying to use the opportunity. Finally, he will see the eagle twisting in the sky. It's time to retreat under the protection of the mountains. Summer is probably the driest time of the year in Altai, but even in winter there is so little rain in this region scorched by the sun that even the grass here struggles to survive. And in the southeast of Russia there is a region known for the amazing changes in the flora that are manifested here every autumn. October in a mixed forest with the greatest biodiversity on Earth. For just 2 weeks, you can watch a riot of gold and green colors. Amur. The basin of the river of the same name, with an area of 1.5 million square kilometers, forms a natural border between Russia and China. When all the leaves fall, the region may seem lifeless, but this forest is home to nearly 3,000 plant species, and is the last refuge for critically endangered felines. This forest is known as the land of leopards. The leopards living in these parts were once widespread throughout Asia. Today there are less than 40 individuals left in the wild. Therefore, it is very rare to see these predators even in passing. Their color serves as a camouflage against the background of the autumn landscape of the Amur, and is ideal for hunting large deer that are found in the local forests. Leopards are constantly on the alert. Hunting ends in luck only in 15% of cases, so the animals have to make supplies. This male hides part of the prey in the trees or together with his rookery to satisfy his hunger in his free time from hunting, but he also hides his prey from another predator, which may be larger and more dangerous than a leopard, but are also on the verge of extinction. Leopards share this forest with the Amur tigers. Due to the loss of their natural habitat and shooting, there are currently only 500 individuals. Almost all of them live in the far east of Russia. The Amur tiger weighs about 300 kilograms and is the largest feline on Earth. Like all tigers, this male protects his territory, but during the mating season, boundaries can be violated. The tiger holds his nose to the wind, and it seems he has smelled the smell. Not far on the other side of the valley is the female's lair. She left the shelter to mark the territory in an attempt to attract males. Hormones in the female's urine indicate her readiness to mate. There are so few of these animals left on the planet that it is vitally important to make sure that the message reaches the recipient. The male uses a special organ to determine by smell whether the female is ready to accept his courtship. The first step in this relationship is for the female to mark her territory, but if the male responds, mating games will remain an obligatory component of this union. Despite her desire to breed, this is not an affair for one night. After meeting, the tigers stay together for several days, sniff each other, and create an intimate relationship. They mate several times. But this is not a long romance. Soon the male will leave in search of another female and will not take part in raising the offspring. It seems that this male has something else on his mind today. He turns away from the female and goes in search of his other passion, food. After sunset, the Amur forest is full of hungry predators in search of their prey. After waiting for darkness, a tiny shrew emerges from its mink. Weighing only a few grams, the shrew is an easy prey for any predator, but this animal has two secret weapons that distinguish it from other rodents living in streams and ponds in Russia. The Eurasian water shrew is an excellent swimmer and use this skill to patrol the area every night in search of food. Although she looks like a cute animal, the shrew is a dangerous predator. And when she finds her prey, she uses her second weapon. The water shrew has two submandibular glands that produce extremely toxic saliva, making it one of the few venomous mammals on Earth. The combination of two superpowers allows shrews to hunt successfully underwater. With the help of strong hind legs, it dives for invertebrates, small fish, and even amphibians. Small air bubbles between the fur hairs pull the shrew to the surface. It is difficult for it to stay underwater for a long time. Therefore, you have to dive many times, trying not to miss even very small prey. The flap larva moves at a meter depth, but the shrew does not see it. But not for long. Unlike fish, the larva is a slow creature. This makes it an easy prey for the agile shrew. She immobilizes the victim with her poison, pulls it to the surface, and ends the meal on land. Aquatic predators hunt near the Amur not only at night. The Amur three-clawed turtle is an endangered species. This strange creature spends almost its entire life underwater, absorbing oxygen through its skin, and rises to the surface every few hours to breathe air. Its main prey is fish, but despite its powerful jaws, the three-clawed turtle has no chance of chasing more agile prey, so this amazing predator uses more deadly hunting techniques. Hiding in the sand, the turtle sets up an ambush. Remaining almost invisible, she waits patiently for several hours to catch a carefree fish within reach. This amazing strategy leaves no chance for prey. And despite all the attempts to escape, the fish caught in the jaws as in a vice will not be able to escape. Surprise tactics make the turtle a dangerous predator and accumulate fat for hibernation. In Russia, winter first comes to the Arctic coast. Huge colonies of Atlantic walrus have spent the last few months on the northernmost islands of Russia to raise their young. They spend almost a third of their entire life curled up in this way and huddled against their relatives to keep warm. The rest of the time walruses are in the water hunting for edible mollusks. But when you weigh 1.5 tons, it takes a little resourcefulness to get to the water. The task is completed. The walrus colony is ruled by the largest male. It boasts the largest canine teeth, and its powerful roar can be heard from over a kilometer away. All this provides him with the highest position. But this does not prevent walruses occupying a lower level of the hierarchy, constantly challenging each other to a duel. These two are just fooling around. Well, when there is more than a ton of weight behind each gift, their fangs can inflict mortal wounds on almost any animal. Thanks to the 20 centimeters layer of subcutaneous fat, the manipulation ends bloodlessly. In the end, the leader intervenes and calls the fighters to order. I send both to the water to cool the ardor. Just in time, under the summer snow flurry. Strong gusts of wind portend the onset of winter. Very soon, walruses will be able to return to their real home in the Arctic ice. In just a few weeks, winter comes to the whole territory of Russia. Weather conditions change rapidly, but most rapidly in one of the coldest and most remote areas on the Amur Peninsula. This barren tundra is covered in ice for 8 months a year, and is home to one of the harshest fauna on Earth. A couple of musk oxen are walking in the open area of Yamal, but if you look closely you can see a calf. In these cruel conditions the calves also need to be hardy, and have time to follow their parents just a couple of hours after birth. At first the calves feed exclusively on mother's milk, but after only a few weeks the calf switches to pasture in order to accumulate fat for the winter. These are necessary conditions for survival in the exhausting conditions of Yamal, this family of musk. Oxen spent the summer on pastures separately from the herd, but now adults lead the calf to relatives. It turns out that replenishments are not only in this family, gathering in herds in number up to 60 individuals for wintering musk oxen unite to protect calves from wolves, and even polar bears. Although more often weather conditions pose the greatest threat to the bulls of Yamal. After the sun sets at the end of November, it will take 2 months for the horizon to see it again. The temperature in Yamal will gradually drop to minus 20 degrees Celsius, but due to the wind and lack of forests, minus 20 degrees can feel like minus 50. Fortunately, musk oxen have a 2-layer coat that allows it to withstand harsh climatic conditions. In addition, their large, round hooves are ideal for walking in the snow in search of food. But it is precisely because of the shape of the hooves and also because of the short legs that musk oxen can dig out food only if the snow is relatively shallow and loose due to warmer winters. The snow gradually melts and freezes again, as a result of which a crust forms that make it difficult to access the grass. Under the snow there is plenty of vegetation for everyone, but foreign grass always looks greener even if the pasture stretches over 100,000 square kilometers, so skirmishes over grazing areas are commonplace. The strong skull of a musk ox, 20 centimeters thick, seems to be specially adapted for battles during the mating season. Such fights acquire epic proportions, but what is surprising, these seemingly powerful blows do almost no harm, and despite constant collisions, life in the herd in the conditions of the Russian winter provides the muskox has a better chance of survival. As winter approaches, cold weather sets in almost throughout the country. And while biological species living in the Russian Arctic have adapted to extreme conditions, in other regions animals have to look for ways to deal with the elements. Some migrate, others pass the winter months in burrows. But no matter how they survive in this endless frosty land, everyone has to wait for the sun to return. Spring comes to Russia first in the southwest in the desert stretching along the Caspian Sea. One of the most amazing local inhabitants will leave the wintering place not earlier than April when the air becomes warm enough. At first glance this is a fairly common lizard, but the eared roundhead has two dexterous tricks helping her to survive in this arid area during the day. Temperatures here often exceed 30 degrees Celsius. To touch the hot sand as little as possible, the roundhead learned to stand on tiptoe. Like most lizards, it needs the sun to maintain its body temperature, but sometimes the desert heat can become unbearable even for a roundhead. I hide from the sun's rays, it literally buries itself through the sand in seconds. In addition to maintaining the desired temperature, such a maneuver allows you to remain invisible for predators and for prey. After spending 4 months in her underground shelter, the roundhead got hungry. On a full stomach, other thoughts come to the lizard's head. Female. In April, the mating season begins for the roundhead, and the situation can be very heated very quickly. But this is not the only male in the area. He will have to defend his right to reproduce. Battles for females can be bloody, but there are less cruel ways to win with the help of an impressive secret weapon. Challenger opens his mouth wide and straightens the bright red serrated folds. The male is undaunted. He makes abrupt blows with his tail, showing his readiness not to give up positions. He tries again, and it works. Isa Pernik retreats, giving the two roundheads the opportunity to return to their class. However, representatives of the amazing Russian fauna have to fight not only for the right to procreate. In the struggle to survive in harsh natural conditions, each species uses its own unique way to overcome difficulties. The largest and the smallest ones, the fastest and the slowest, all these animals live in the endless and fragile expanses of the untouched nature of Russia. This wilderness paradise continues to be considered its home.